Meeting will please come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item, the approval of the minutes from our last regular board meeting in February. Can I have a motion? Second. Anybody find anything that wasn't correct? All those in favor of approval? Thank you. Next up is last week's work session. A motion, please. Jason, Sandy? Anything in that? Good job. Okay, all those in favor? The Joint Advisory Committee reports. Recreation.
I have the summaries here. Well, first off, the golf committee did not meet. They all volunteered at the Golf Expo in lieu of their meeting. They will be meeting again come April. For the Recreation Committee, the highlights that were given to me by the chair. All amenities reported in good condition. Most opportunities were minor maintenance issues. There were several conversations around parking. Tyree members continue to park on the grass. Tanyard Pavilion was rented. All lots were full. Overflowing was in the grass. Additional striping needs to be added to the Branchwood parking lot to create more spaces as needed. Myself reported member tour at Kingsdale on 3/19. We had 50 people in attendance approximately. There was a question about a dog park on the east side, and I commented that it's a difficult situation because we don't have much, the POA doesn't have much land on that side. And Rick Eccles talked about the roof replacement at the pavilions at Tyree, London Landing, and Lake Anne, I'm sorry. John Urquhart talked about the trap and skeet is up 32% year over year. Firearms training was offered in February. Joan commented about the Spring Bazaar, which is coming up on April 13th. The Easter egg hunt is on March 30th, so very soon. And Flea in the Park will be held in October. For the Lakes Committee, the summary was given to me by the chair. Lakes biologists are collecting brood stock for sockeye program for Lake Windsor. Lake Windsor is refilling slowly after the October 2023 drawdown. We just need some rain. Additional spring electrofishing will begin in April. Loch Lomond Marina will open for the season April 2nd with limited hours until Memorial Day. And the Bella Vista fly tyers have installed numerous Arkansas cubes for habitat. And that is the reports for the committees.
Thank you. The next step would be the financial reports. Beth?
Okay, we have the financial overview for February. Start with the consolidated results. Year to date, revenue is $5,794,000 year to date. This is POA and water combined, which beat budget and prior year. And EBITDA was $638,000 positive, well beating budget and prior year. Looking at just February by itself, revenue was $2,978,000, beating budget, and EBITDA was $476,000 for February. Looking at POA only for the month of February, revenue was $2,041,000, which beat budget in prior year. Some notable items in that is golf fees were $67,000 better than budget. They are worse than prior year, but that's owing due to the closure of Tanyard Creek. Membership transfer fees were $45,000 better than budget. Food and beverage was $18,000 better than budget. Lots resale $15,000 better. Assessment fees $14,000 better, and investment income $10,000 better. Looking at expenses for the POA for February, you'll see on the right that the total expenses were $1,734,000, better than budget, a little bit more than prior year. A lot of that's just due to timing. We're just in January and February, and that's going to be kind of the theme throughout this is timing of hard to anticipate when expenses are going to hit. But salaries and wages and benefits are $37,000 better than budget. Maintenance and repairs, $22,000 better. You'll see that utilities, supplies, interest expense were all better than budget. Equipment, that's non-capital equipment, was $10,000 worse than budget for February, but it's still $28,000 better year to date. And there's noting that some of the expenses is timing. For the POA, EBITDA for February was $180,000, and January was pretty much a break even, so $181,000 year to date. Looking at just golf on the right, you'll see that their revenue for February was $352,000, which was better than budget and prior year. You'll see that on the left, cart rentals came in at $46,773, was $18,000 better than budget. Guest green fees, $72,764, which was almost $29,000 better than budget. Member green fees were $54,845, $21,000 better than budget. Thought we'd share with you some of the progress on the Tanyard Creek practice facility. It's looking really good. You can see some of the dirt work there and the targets coming along nicely. Moving on to food and beverage, to the right, you'll see that the revenue for February was $263,000, better than budget and prior year. And looking comparison to prior year to the left, the BV Bar and Grill was $7,740 better than this time last year, and has $144,000 in February. Lake Point had $64,628 in February, which is $14,784 better than this time last year. And Highlands is almost the same as last year, $90 better at $39,440. And here's some progress on the Kingsdale renovation, the Pro Shop, and the future restaurant BV65. Recreation had total revenue for February of $77,000, which was $15,000 better than budget. You'll see that dock fees were $8,000 better than budget, and facility use was $7,000 better. Their EBITDA was $17,000 better than budget, even though they purchased $7,000 of fitness equipment for Metfield. And they sold 449 24-hour fitness fobs by the end of February. And I heard an update on that today. It was do you remember, Tom, 576 or 5, something like that? 560? 2. Okay, there we go. Looking at water now, revenue is $937,000 for the month of February, which was better than budget in prior year. Cost of water was $22,000 better than budget at $216,000. And operating expenses were $425,000, which was worse than budget and prior year. But the driver of that was meter installation materials were 94,000 worse than budget. And Charlie indicated that he was expecting those in March, but they shipped in February early, so that should offset come March reports. In the revenue, capital buy-in fees were 40,000 better than budget, and new service connections revenue was 34,000 better than budget. The EBITDA for water for the month of February was 296,000, beating budget and prior year. Year to date, 457,000, and so we're still a little slightly below budget and prior year. The scales of those charts, I just realized, are not the same because it looks like we're so much worse than prior year on year to date than we really are. That's only like less than 50,000. Looking at cash, we have total cash of $7,114,000. Water has $3,077,000 and reserved, $1,013,000 reserved, and POA has $2,012,000 unreserved and $1,011,000 reserved. And here's the one pager. Pretty much goes over everything I just talked about. You can see that all the departments are better than budget except for food and beverage, which is just slightly worse than budget on EBITDA. And over on the right, you'll see the debt balances. POA owes water $2,534,951, and our balance on our BVRC loan is $2,341,103. Any questions?
And we haven't yet drawn on the Tanyard loan yet, so that won't show up until we have.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Next up is the open forum. Did we have? First person, Anita Ellingson. You get 3 minutes.
I'm Anita Ellingson, and this is my neighbor, Dee Dee Myers. You may remember me. I wrote you all an email a couple of weeks ago about the parking situation that the renovation down at Tanyard has caused to those of us that live on Tanyard Drive. First of all, I appreciate your taking some action on my email. Tom and you guys were very quick to open up. I know you spent some money putting a fence down there to open up some of that overflow parking, and it has helped. It truly has, but it hasn't solved the problem. If you're down there anytime on a Saturday or Sunday and it's nice, there's parking on both sides of the street. It's a pretty narrow street. And tonight, that's my concern. If there were an emergency in our neighborhood, and we have elderly people that live there, and we have called ambulances in the past, there's absolutely no way a vehicle could get through when there's parking on both sides of that street. In fact, for us even to get out of our driveway and go to the store or any place else, we have to pull mirrors in, sometimes have people guide you. It's just not a really good situation. And we know that it's not going to get better, especially through the summer with people using that facility more and more, the nature trail. We have contacted the city. We have gotten no response from the city. And so my request to you as a board is if you could somehow intervene on our behalf with the city and just limit parking to one side or the other. That would solve, I think, a lot of our concerns. We need to have a confidence that if there's an emergency and a vehicle needs to get to us, that they would not be impeded by the cars that are there. We still have issues with people parking on the curb and making ruts in our yard, and dogs doing their duty in our front yard, and people throwing water bottles, but that's stupidity and disrespect, and you can't fix that, unfortunately. But those are my concerns. Dee Dee?
I just wanted to say that I was here last year when all the zoning was going on for the driving range, and I guess it was just the driving range, and you guys approved the driving range zoning that did, but you didn't do that little part that was in by the, across the street that was for us, and you said that was because that was a buffer for the townhouse people. Well, we're just requesting that now. We need a buffer. We need some help on getting, on helping. Easter's gonna be horrible. Summertime's gonna be disaster for us to get in and out of our area. So we're just here to let you know our concerns, and hopefully we can get some help of some kind.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Now, you won't go too long because the Cyclones play at 9 o'clock.
I know, I
Go Clones! Sorry.
I had a question for them. Is there an HOA already in the neighborhood for the Townhouse Association there that you could possibly flex to have people towed if they were? What rules and regulations do they have in their own townhome zone over there, or is it one of those?
The governing documents, so our governing documents, our declaration created the three entities, meaning the POA, the Townhouse Association, and the ACC. And so we don't have any, they don't have any fining authority. Is that what you're asking? I'm sorry?
Well, I'm wondering if, you know, one of the ways that they're figuring that they can get this solved is by, you know, playing the emergency vehicle card, which I agree. I think that's a really good card to play. And I'm wondering if the townhouse rules say, yes, you can stripe one side of the street that says no parking, and then there would be some mechanism in which to call some sort of tow yard and get people towed from there. I mean, do you know of anything in your own townhouse association that allows you to do that? Or?
I have contacted the Townhouse Association, and they have told me that the streets are city, so there's nothing they could do. I asked if we could put up no parking signs, and she said as long as it does not interfere with the mowers and the maintenance people that come around and stuff, we could do that. We don't know legally whether or not we could do something like that on city streets. I contacted the police department, and they told me kind of like the same stuff. They're city streets. Call us when you need us. And I said, well, we've already called. We've had one fight up on the thing with people parking on the grass. We called the police. We've had another instance where they've parked next to a fire hydrant, and we've called the police for that. He said, you know, if they're in the area and stuff, we will tow them and stuff, you know, but
That just doesn't seem like a good solution.
yeah. I mean, do we call them every time that we need? I mean, we counted the other day, and from the point of where Tanyard was to where it kind of goes up the hill, we had 35 cars. And I don't know if it means, but Claire tried to get out the other day, and there was parking on both sides, and she tried to get through, and some guys came and helped her move her mirrors in so that because now she's kind of stuck, and to move her mirrors in to get through the street so that we could even get out of the neighborhood.
Well, and if you're driving out and another car's coming at you, you're both backing up because there's no way to get through there, so.
It sounds like it's definitely a city.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Call every single time.
And that's what I was asking, if you could intervene, maybe if the POA board
can
contacts
try.
the city, because they wouldn't respond to us.
So
but
I'll get a hold of the police chief and see if he can help. You know, there are no parking signs, and then we moved those big rocks. Those originally were further in, and we added them right next to and that was a little bit of a consternation on the city's part because that's the right of way, but they let us put them there, and that initially helped. What we did do is, you know, because of your email, we opened the parking lot back up. That has helped a little bit, as you indicated. We put the overflow parking signs back up, but they're smaller. So we just ordered some, I call them the real estate signs, the ones with the metal pegs and you put them in the ground. So we ordered, we're getting a bunch of those tomorrow because I saw the weather for this coming weekend. I was like, oh boy. And so we're gonna put those along to try and it's gonna say overflow parking ahead with an arrow. So we're gonna try and get those people to go to the overflow parking. But if you've gone down there, you've seen the overflow parking is not a lot, but we have so much other stuff in that area. So I wanted to make you aware of the additional signs that we're gonna put up. And I'll contact the police chief and see if he can help out at all. But I agree with David is if someone's parking in front of the fire hydrant and they do it every day in, day out, I'd call the police every day.
They're not allowed to block your driveway, I don't think.
They don't block the driveway. It's just that they park behind the driveway and they're on both sides of the street, and it's such a narrow street anyway. There's just,
I guess we all need hover cars.
I guess the only other suggestion I would have for you all in the midst of everything getting worked out with the city is just you yourself park on the streets to dedicate your own spaces. So you at least control who's in front of your own home with your own vehicles. I mean, it's not great, but it's at least you're securing your own space.
You are, but it's against the law to park overnight on the street.
We don't have a problem overnight on our
Yeah,
street
I know,
type thing.
but I'm just saying there, but yes.
Just one more question on that field that's behind the current parking. Is that any possibility to park in there temporarily?
So here's the quandary, and I don't have a good answer for it, is we know we have a parking problem, but we also have an excessive usage of the nature trail problem. And I am concerned that we are loving that trail to death. And so yes, we could open up that additional area. You know, let's be realistic, it's gonna die. And if we have any rain, we got a problem because we're gonna get cars, you know, it's gonna be a muddy mess. We can do that. I'm just really concerned about the long-term health of the nature trail because we already get so much usage. And I don't really have a good answer for that.
Hey, Tom, because of that, have we ever thought about possibly closing that parking lot for the time being while Tanyard is being built to give the vegetation a chance to regrow? People can ride their bikes through there, that's not a problem. But shutting down the parking lot, I know people are gonna miss it, but at least it would have a chance to rejuvenate.
I'm concerned that it would make the parking problem get exponentially worse because then the parking lot is gone and then there's still, you know, we can put up gates and so forth, but we know what people do.
They'll park on the road.
Yeah, which they're already doing.
Can we not close the park, the pavilion, the whole park?
Well,
Not just the parking lot, but can
the
you
other
not
thing that
close
we
the
have
park?
done is we've shut down all rentals for that pavilion. So that may help a little bit because that way, you know, birthday parties and so forth, they won't be in the same volume that they have in the past. We can look at opening up the field. I mean, that might be the best way to go. I just want everybody to be realistic.
I just think just temporarily, we'll tear it up, but I also counted before all this, and there's a lot of cars that park in the overflow before construction. And so at least that would complement to get us where we were pre-construction. And then once that is open again, we can close it, you know, in the fall. Right. It will tear it up, but at least it gives the neighbors some sort of.
And then we just gotta hope that they park, you know, we can line it out, but people don't always, they park all over the place and, you know.
Maybe it's just a temporary. So it's like this weekend we know it's gonna be nice, so maybe we open it this weekend and then it's not open during the week or whatever, I don't know. It's a tough one, it is.
It's a tough one. So what we'll do is we'll look into opening up the grassy area and adding some lines and see if we can keep things somewhat organized. And maybe that'll help us.
Price of paradise.
That's right.
Yeah, we've got a painful summer ahead of us, I think. It's not going to be a real good situation no matter what. So, Bob, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I'm Bob Bader. I live at 3 Tanyard Place next to Dee Dee and across the street from Anita. Broken record, echoing the same concern. Did call the Bella Vista Police Department because of the parking situation, was given the explanation 9 to 5 or 9 to 8, whatever the time table was, that people are able to park under 2 conditions, the safety and safety was one of the issues, and they couldn't block a driveway. Well, depends on what your definition of blocking a driveway is. If you can't back out of your driveway to get in the street, you're blocking my driveway. Are you not? If you're preventing me from ingress and egress from my house, you're blocking my driveway. So the streets are not wide enough. They were never wide enough or intended to be wide enough to park 2 cars on each side. That's why the HOA says we can't park at night. We pay a fee to live here, and we can't park there. The people that don't can't. There's a problem with that. The issue that we've all seen and we've talked about is open up the grassy area. Well, I think it's been a long time before now that the issue of parking has happened, last year and the year before and the year before that. I think there's plenty of room in that park to add parking for the park. It's got a nice pavilion. Are we gonna wreck the grass because we're gonna temporarily park on the grass? Or are we gonna just look at a short-term solution? Maybe we need to open our eyes and say, we're spending a lot of money making a really, really nice golf practice complex. We've taken some of the parking that was there for overflow and for the guys and gals that play golf that park their carts there. And we're gonna have more people in the future wanting to use the driving range. So that overflow parking that's now limited because of loss of space and the new design of it is gonna just exacerbate the problem we're talking about right now. So in my opinion, we need to think forward. Yeah, we need some short-term stuff, but we need to think forward. Let's put a parking lot that's adequate for the park that we built. If we're gonna let the public use it, let's provide the parking so it can sustain itself and the people that live there aren't coming and asking for your help. That's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have anything to add, Tom?
No.
Okay. We will be contacting the police chief, and I would encourage you, if somebody has your driveway blocked, you definitely have a reason to contact the police. So they'll be made aware of the problem, I'm sure, because they might be able to do something about parking one side of the street only or something like that. So.
Sir, we'll just park, we have a circle drive, so we could just park our vehicles there come Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, I just urge y'all not to get in any confrontations with people, you know, I know.
It was a very bad fight.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we don't live in an area where you expect to have a fist fight in the middle of the street. You know, that's not what we're here for. And if you park on both sides of that street, you'll have to have a very small car to go down it with any degree of certainty that you'll make it. And you'll be driving about 5 miles an hour because you'll be utterly concerned about somebody walking out on the street in between you. Consider this, there's no sidewalks. So if you're parking on both sides of the street, somebody's walking down the street, you're not gonna go by them.
So I think you have a good case to go to the city and ask for no parking on one side of the street. It seems like a no-brainer to me.
And no emergency vehicles can get in.
Well, yeah,
I think
that's the safety issue.
the biggest thing is
None of them could get in.
we can't do anything really about
Yeah,
it.
our
The
hands
city
are
is
pretty much
the
tied
entity that
for
can resolve
the
this.
streets.
And I think city council meeting, much like you're here tonight,
is gonna do a lot more good, I mean, because we empathize with your problem. It's a legitimate concern,
Okay,
but we can't do a lot about it.
okay, I think we need to move on. Thank you. Thank you for coming. You didn't want to stop and hear about policy 3.03. Okay. This concerned lakes, the second reading. Last time we had a little bit of a word change and not enough to go back to first reading. So can I have a motion on 3.03? Mike? Who was the second?
Jeff.
Jeff was second. Mike was first. Yes. I heard him. Are there any more comments? We've beat this one to death, probably. Let's go ahead and vote then. All those in favor of the passing the second reading, 3.03, common property lakes. That's 9. Thank you. Next up is the Declaration and Protective Covenants Summary. This is the language that was added to explain to the layman. Can I have a motion on that one? JB?
I make a motion that we approve this.
Thank you. Dr. Hagan is a second. Any more on this? In that case, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor? 9. The next one is pretty much new information, a cost estimate for the emergency capital project, the gun range safety renovation. And so
I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because we went through this in a much more detail last week. So if you're viewing from home and this is the first time you've seen this, I encourage you to reference last week's presentation. That video can be found on the Bella Vista POA website. So I'm going to go through pretty quick here. And we talked about the background. We encourage people to go through and look at the videos from the rec committee meetings on the 8th and February 12th, but also last week's work session. Our goal is to make all reasonable improvements. We're going to be going with a baffle system, 4 on the rifle side and 1 on the pistol side. We're going to add ballistic roofs, and we're also going to add some ballistic separators, partitions if you want to call it, on the pistol side. Director Hagan had made that recommendation last week. We spoke with the architect. We already got the plans back that fast, so that was nice. The berms and everything, we're still working on the berms as to how high they need to be. We just got the survey results, the survey in on those. So that work still continues. I've used this same slide a couple times, so I'm just going to skip over this, but this is an example of a range in Conway. And this is an artist's rendition of what ours could potentially look like with the berms and the baffles in play. Here is what the pistol side would look like with a single baffle. And one thing I want to point out, on both sides of the range, the targets are lower than the shooting location, which adds more complexity to it because they're actually lower. So that means that to provide us with sufficient protection, we have to actually go higher in certain areas because you think you're shooting straight, but you're actually shooting down. So if you shoot 100% level, we need to catch those bullets too. So a little bit of a challenge. You can see that graphic on the bottom left. You can see it's actually lower. We have the same issue on the rifle side. It's actually a little bit more enhanced on the rifle side. 4 baffles. We're going to add additional shooting positions. One of those will be a raised prone position, and one of them will be a handicap accessible position. When we're all done with this, it'll be 100% handicap compliant, ADA compliant.
For my benefit, raised prone means you're laying on your stomach?
Yeah, so
Okay,
a lot of
yeah.
people like to shoot from the ground, from a laying down position, but because of the angles, if you have a baffle system and you're laying down and you were to shoot way high, you can get above the baffle. So when you're actually shooting from the raised prone position, you're actually at the same height as everybody else. So we're going to build like a little deck or something to that nature. So hey, you're off the ground, so that's good. But it makes it so, because of the angles, it makes it a lot better. This is what the berms will look like. So we already have some berms in place, but we're going to enhance those. We've changed the parking configuration, so ignore the parking lots because we had to change those. And then this is new. You haven't seen this image before. The light shaded lines is our current property line, and the dark is going to be the new property line. So we're working on doing a lot split to acquire that property. You know, acquiring property is not a quick and easy thing to do, and we got to wait until we have full ownership of the land before we start making improvements to it, removing trees, building berms, and so forth. So this is, I got this yesterday. So we're working, but it's a long process. I mentioned about making it handicap accessible. Can't remember who asked about usage last week. Mike asked about usage. We don't differentiate between pistol and rifle, but 5,700 in 22, and then last year we had 6,300 actual. If we hadn't been closed for the last approximately 6 weeks, we would probably hit 7,200, so that's up 26%. So we're actually getting a lot of usage on that. So the cost we're estimating is $300,000. I referenced this at last week's meeting that we're going to do a lot of the work in-house, so it's not like we have a bid or something like that. And we're going to learn a lot as we go along. As we build the first baffle, I guarantee you we'll probably start making some adjustments. So we're asking for an allotment of $300,000, but that number may shift. We think it's going to go down because we've included a decent contingency. Also, the purchase of the land is going to be $10,000 plus expenses. And it's still too early to give an estimate. We're trying to get some sort of estimate on timing as to when it's going to be complete, but I don't know how long it's going to take for us to take possession of the land. That's something that is 100% beyond our control, and so I would hate to venture to guess when we're going to complete it, because we don't know when we can start, because we don't want to start until we own the land. So that's it. We're asking for the $300,000 and the $10,000 plus expenses.
Hey Tom, just thinking about 7,200 people, 6,000 plus people. I've only been to the gun range twice. I don't recall the security protocols. I don't recall cameras. I don't recall any of that stuff. What is our plan to make it safer, to make our understanding of the actions of our customers there more understood in case something happens, somebody does something foolish, that we have enough eyes in the sky to keep us from any additional liabilities because maybe somebody did something they shouldn't have done and it wouldn't be on us. I'm just asking for you to take a good, cold, hard look at that. And then another thing that hit me is kind of the exit through the gift shop thing. What is our other ways to monetize that? I know we sell ammo there. Is a portion of this budget and this renovation also making that experience better, or how can we think about capturing more dollars from those 7,000 customers that are coming through?
So a couple of different things. So we have taken a complete step back and looked at all safety protocols. So we're going to install cameras. We currently we have cameras there, but they're not very good. We're going to get new cameras. We're going to have a audible and light system that will more effectively notify people when the range is going cold, meaning we're not shooting. Before it was very informal. People would say, hey, we're going cold, you know, hey, and sometimes people didn't always listen to that.
It is loud.
It is loud. All of our employees are going through safety training. It's an 8-hour course, and we're going to require all of our employees to do that. You're only required to have one person do it, and I think by the end of this month we'll have 10 people go through the course and be certified. We are going to require all attendees or users to go through an orientation. Now the orientation is only going to take a couple minutes, but it's just making sure that everybody's on the same page. And our experience is that experienced shooters are willing to do those extra steps because they understand the importance of safety. And so we're going to require an orientation and so forth. With regards to retail stuff, that's a little bit harder because ammo is so different. There's so many types of weapons, so many different types of ammo, and you know, you go to an ammo shop and they got shelves and shelves and shelves, and we don't want to get into that. We do offer some basic ammo, but we don't want to have this huge inventory, so we got to be careful. We don't plan on touching the check-in booth because the check-in booth is actually in pretty good shape. It's only 5 years old, 6 years old, right? Something like that. A few years old. So, but you are correct. We are looking at all aspects of the operation to make sure that we have a much safer environment for our members.
Okay.
One other thing that hit me, a point in time we're pretty heavy on archery discussions, and at one point in time some of these things were all going to live on one area, and do you have any updates around that, or has that been a discussion as this thing has expanded now that we're getting that much more territory? And
we're not getting that much more land, and I've heard a lot of objections to people not wanting to have the archery range too close to the gun range because it is loud. We've looked at using the skeet and trap and having that like dual purpose, but the problem is everybody wants to shoot, whether it's skeet and trap or archery. Saturday is the busiest day, you know. So yeah, we had that idea of, well, you know, skeet and trap is only open 2 to 3 days a week. Well, why don't we use it for the other days? But Saturday's the day, and and then we've looked at all the other land holdings of the POA, and you know, it's a large flat area, and it's hard to find.
Okay, first thing we need is a motion to buy the land. So would someone make that motion?
I'll make a motion authorizing the POA to acquire necessary land around the gun range at a cost of $10,000 plus any out-of-pocket expenses incurred by the seller.
Thank you. Second by Jeff. Any question on that? All those in favor? 9. Okay, now we can authorize the capital project. Can I have a motion on that?
Yeah, David, I'll make a motion authorizing an emergency capital project for the renovation of the gun range at a preliminary estimate cost of $300,000. Management will provide an update cost estimates in the project when appropriate.
Thank you. Second? Second. Sandy? Okay, any further discussion on this? Moving right along. Okay, all those in favor? Taking care of the membership. I believe that brings us down to the end. I know you all can't wait for the announcements, but here they go. The election for the Board of Directors begins on the 8th. The ballots, proxies will be sent by email and snail mail. And it is members in good standing on March 31st.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Coming up. Recreation JAC is Monday the 8th at 4 p.m. The Lakes JAC is Wednesday the 10th at 2, followed by golf at 4 here in the boardroom. The Board of Directors GM meeting will be the 11th, Thursday the 11th at 2:30 p.m. The work session will be Thursday, April 18th at 9 a.m. here in the boardroom. And next month's regular session will be Thursday, the 25th of April, right here in the boardroom.
And no rules read.
Is there anything else? We will stand adjourned. Thank you very much.